Welcome to Insight Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. Today on our show, we have writer and director Akash Sherman. Akash, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Glad to have you here. Akash, man, being a writer director is a task within itself, and I'm looking forward to hearing how you decided to take that route. And also, we have some projects that you work on that I'm really interested in diving into. But before we talk about all that good stuff, let's talk about Akash as a filmmaker. When did this filmmaking path start for you?
Wow. Well, you know, I, I think I was somewhat fortunate to know exactly what I wanted to do when I was very young. And I kind of just followed that path like a laser. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to this experience. But when I saw like Star Wars for the first time, I was like, wow. Like I couldn't believe my eyes, just stepping into a different universe, and it just opened up so many possibilities. And so I think when I was about 9 years old, I took my mom's point and shoot digital camera, and I used to play with Lego and Playmobil and stuff, and so I started making these stop motion. Because here's the thing: when you're a kid and you're playing with your toys, right? There's a narrative that is being constructed in your head, when you're making two things fight, or right, and that is storytelling. So then I was like, all right, well, why don't I put a camera in here as well? And then so like as like a 9-year old, I think it was like Windows Movie Maker or something like that, but I would put all these images together, make it kind of stop motion, and then find a story inside of it. And I just loved doing that, and I honestly I kept doing that throughout my school years until I finally like made a proper short film. God, this would have been 2011. I think I was 16 or 15 or 16 years old. Um, but my paternal grandfather had just passed away, and I had all these feelings, and I ended up making this short film called For Them, For You, where it's about this boy who lost a toy, and he's searching for it. And it's kind of like this dream sequence, and he keeps encountering different versions of himself, and it represents the stages of grief. And then at the end, you realize he didn't lose a toy, he lost a person, and it's this young person that's grappling with those feelings. And I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which I mean, not many people would know if you're in the U.S. unless you know the Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers, the hockey team. But I, I, a teacher of mine said you have to submit this to film festivals, and so I did, and it ended up winning like best narrative at a film festival in Michigan. And I'm from Canada, and I think I won like a MacBook Pro with that prize. And so I just validation might be the wrong word, but that just that kind of confidence instilled in me by having a film go to film festivals at like age 16, and it also like winning awards. I was like, I can do this. I can do this, right? So I kept going with it, and I learned VFX really early, After Effects, and I was able to kind of heighten uh, what I was making as an indie filmmaker with no money. And but really what filmmaking is, and I'm going to go back to this, but it's you're just a kid playing with toys trying to tell a story, right?
Hmm.
That at the end of it, that's what it is. And you're going to pick from a toolbox to make it the best you can. And so I've maintained that philosophy my entire life. I'm 31 now. So and I'm happy with how my trajectory has turned out, and it's an honor to get to make films as it was a hobby and a passion, but now it's also my career.
That's awesome. I love that. Your professor seen something in you and he took the ball and ran with it. That is a beautiful story, especially to begin with. You're not even sure where it's gonna go, and then boom, out of nowhere, film festivals winning the awards. Oh man, that's awesome. All right, Akash. So let's dive into this project. It's titled Clara.
Yeah, Clara.
Clara, my apologies, Clara. So how did you come up with the concept for that film? And can you share how it is working on that film?
So I had made my first feature film called The Rocket List when I was like 19, shoestring budget. It was like 5 or 6 grand or whatever. It got into a couple festivals, but I was in film school at the time in Toronto, and I wrote this idea for my second film, but it was much bigger and loftier. Like it's not really a film that I probably could have made purely independently with my friends. Um, but I was in film school, and this is an interesting story because I can actually remember the day. It was like January 15th, 2015. It was an art history lecture, and I was so bored. It was such a dry lecture that day. It was like 3 hours, and we're learning about all these amazing artists throughout history, And I had this epiphany. I said, these people we're learning about, these Da Vinci's, and
Mm.
they they wouldn't be bored in class right now, having their youthful energy being sucked from boredom. They would be staying up at night creating something and being crazy. So I made a promise to myself that day. I said, by the end of today, I'm going to write a story. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to have something. And so I left class midway. My friends were like, where the heck is he going? I went for a walk. I listened to some music. Music gets the juices flowing. I was listening to the Interstellar soundtrack by Hans Zimmer.
Nice.
And I was just kind of finding themes of space, love, those kinds of things, humanity, connection. And so I went to my dorm room. I shut my door. I think I typed for like 7 hours straight, just whatever came to me. And it was this story about an astronomer who had lost someone, and he meets an artist who's lost in her life, and they kind of bond and then end up making this amazing astronomical discovery. And I titled it Clara, like because that name means clear and bright like a star. And I ended up pitching it this summer after my first year of film school, and it got picked up by a producer, and my life kind of just took off from there. I ended up actually leaving film school because the producer liked the script so much. He took a chance on me. He saw my last film, which I made on like no money, and he felt like I could be entrusted with this. And so Clara, it's crazy because I think I was 22 when I directed it, and it was a $2 million budget, right?
Wow.
So for a kid to go from like a $5,000 indie film with his buddies to a $2 million budget, and we had big actors in it, right? Uh, we put out. I had a list of actors I wanted to approach, like kind of dream actors. I was a big fan of the TV show Suits at the time.
Mhm.
It's shot in Toronto, and so one of the leads, I mean, the lead who plays Mike Ross is Patrick J. Adams, and so we got in touch with him. He loved the script. He had some ideas that he wanted to talk to me about with the character, and we established this really good relationship. And then through that, I had met his fiance, now wife, Troyan Bellisario, and she comes from a really cool film pedigree. Like her dad created Magnum PI and Quantum Leap, like big
Nice.
TV shows, and she was on the show Pretty Little Liars, which I hadn't actually seen, but I started to watch a little bit of it after I met her. But she also had great ideas for the character of Clara, and I was like, well, we should just cast you because Pretty Little Liars had ended, and Patrick had just left Suits. Um, so yeah, we filmed it in Toronto, I think in 19 days. I was a very young director, 22 years old, and it ended up going to TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, which is like
Wow.
one of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
And we went to a bunch of festivals, Spain, um, Austin Film Fest, where we won Best Screenplay. Um, and the movie came out, and it's kind of like a heady sci-fi movie, so I knew like it wasn't gonna land with everyone. So it kind of had mixed reviews, but I think the people that it landed with like really liked it, and then some people were just like, "Oh, this is boring," but um, I'm really proud of it, and I'm not sure where it's available in the U.S. currently. It floats around. It's usually on Prime or on Netflix at some time or another.
Mhm.
But yeah, Clara, it's great actors. It's a really cool story. There's an amazing discovery at the end of the movie. Sorry, I'm rambling here, but this part is really cool. The science in the film is all real. Like I did a lot of research beforehand, and we had advising scientists on it.
Mhm.
And there's a big discovery at the end of the film, and it was an original creative idea from me, but the two scientists that worked on the film put like method to it, and it
Mhm.
ended up being like a novel piece of science that they wrote a paper on, and it got published in the American Astronomical Society, and uh, and then we had a couple people from NASA screen it, and it was insane, right? This small Canadian film. It's a drama, but it has a lot of sci-fi elements in it. But the
Mhm.
ending has this really cool like discovery. That profiles two of the telescopes at NASA, the James Webb Space Telescope and the TESS telescope, and it's yeah, I don't know, it was just wild, man. Like I was 22.
That's awesome. That is a big deal. Oh man, you got scientists, oh, got it published, and you got these actors from Suits. Man, you climbing up that ladder.
The whole Suits cast was at the premiere at TIFF. I was That was crazy to me, like to meet all of them. That was so cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. All right, Akash. So now we're gonna take a slight turn. There's a music video that you direct because you also direct music videos and film. And this music video is titled Away Is Mine. So how is the experience working on that music video?
Well, okay, so I never really started or did music videos before, but this is kind of the harsh reality of living in an industry that's always in flux. But when the pandemic hit, and I actually had a stint in Hollywood in I think 2019, where I was pitching my next film, because the head of Paramount at the time, Wick Godfrey, had seen Clara, and I got to go on what's called like the water bottle tour, where I pitched my next film at many studios. I even got to pitch at Star Wars, which is like a dream come true, as a 23-year-old. And my next film, oh God, this is embarrassing, but like it had a virus element to it.
Mhm.
And then I pitched it in 2019, and then boom, the whole world shuts down from an actual virus,
Oh
right?
man.
And
Uh,
yeah, no one wanted to make that movie after that. But so, pandemic hits, the whole industry kind of shuts down. It's 2020. I'm back at home in Canada, and nothing's really being made. But in Canada, there's a band called the Tragically Hip. They're kind of one of our most famous like legacy bands. And the lead singer, Gord Downie, he had passed away, but he wrote an album before he did pass away. It was a posthumous album that was released, and it's called "Away Is Mine." And he's kind of grappling with these feelings of I'm going to die because he had brain cancer, and he's an amazing poet. And so he wrote this beautiful album. And a friend of mine in Toronto, she was producing a series of music videos, and asked me to direct the title track. And I was like ecstatic because I'd never really done a music video.
mhm.
And I just thought it was a really cool way to do something, I don't know, out there and artistic. And it's about this like traveling salesman who has a really heavy suitcase filled with lots of things. That's, kind of a metaphor for life. And then he's on this train track, and it ends up turning into a ladder, and he like climbs up it into the clouds, and he's in this purgatory. And in order to let go, he has to let go of the suitcase that's filled with all these things. Um, like an alarm clock that represents time and bills and all this kind of stuff. And then he gets to float away into the away. And it's just metaphor for letting go and going into a different place after death. Um, but yeah, that was really special, to kind of interpret the words of a Canadian icon. And yeah, it was a very special music video, and it was great to make that.
I love that. I'm curious, the briefcase prop and concept. How did you come up with that concept?
There was kind of a concept that was through the album about a traveling salesman. Like, I don't know if you kind of can picture it, but like in like the 50s, 60s, a guy with a hat and a suit and a briefcase always,
Hmm.
it's a weird lifestyle because you're always on the move, you're meeting people
Exactly.
and so that was kind of the character I was given by the producer Sarah Basso, and I was like, okay, this is really cool because I was like, I want to fill that briefcase with stuff that kind of represents the things that anchor us on this
Hmm.
planet, like
Hmm.
in this 3D life. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to get a really nice message out there about letting go because that's very much what the artist was dealing with because he was going to pass away. And you can hear it. It's kind of haunting, to be honest, but yeah, it was a really cool music video. We did some really cool VFX. We shot it all kind of in a void. Um, and because I have a VFX background, I was able to kind of elevate it. It had a very small budget, but it's funny. Director X, who directs like a lot of like Drake music videos, and he's big in Toronto. He's kind of like the head honcho of directing music videos. He's done like Justin Bieber and all that kind of stuff. He saw it and he was like, "This must have had like a budget of like a couple hundred grand." And I was just like, "No, no, it didn't." But that was really nice praise from a really prolific director here in Canada, Director X. Yeah.
Yeah, you deserve it. Even with that low budget, everyone that's listening, hey, creativity is unlimited.
It
I
is. I mean, that's the biggest thing, Devon. I mean, you know what? Small budgets aren't a bad thing because those limitations will push your creativity to find other ways around it,
Mhm.
right? And so yeah, we shot like a decently high profile music video in Canada on like a in a dark void. We just rented a small studio, had a couple light sources. I made everything black behind them, and yeah, it was very very simple, but effective and had a clear kind of creative vision. So yeah, I think the coolest thing about being a filmmaker is you're kind it just see yourself as like a Swiss Army knife. How do you get around certain situations creatively? The one thing Hollywood, like big Hollywood, like big studios can't do is be an indie filmmaker. Like they can't pretend to do that. They don't know those limitations, right?
Mhm.
So do whatever you can to embrace those limitations. There's a film that was shot in my city called Skinamarink on like no money during the pandemic, and it became this major horror hit. Like it made like a couple $1 million. The guy filmed it for like nothing. He just filmed it in his basement with like a camcorder or something, and now like A24 is
Mhm.
making his next movie for like a few $1 million, right? So seriously, like to create is to create opportunities as well. You're going
Mhm.
to create more pathways in your life. Kind of going back to that idea that I was sitting in that lecture and I just had that, I got to go make something. And then that turned into this big journey, right? So I guess my advice would be is just go create something. Even if it's not like, it doesn't have to be big or perfect or anything. Just create it honestly, just with whatever is in your spirit. And there's a lot of people on this planet. Someone else is going to connect with it. I guarantee you.
Mhm. I love it. All right, Akash. Oh, yeah. So now let's jump back into films. So this one is interesting because I'm a wrestling fan. I know Canada loves wrestling. This one is interesting. Sings in the Ring. How did you get a part of that? Like, where did that come from?
So I grew up loosely watching wrestling, like the kind of Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin era. My dad and my uncles were big wrestling fans in like the 70s and 80s. And we had a wrestler by the name of Gama Singh, who's kind of like the only brown wrestler at the time in Canada. I mean, I think the Iron Sheik was kind of big in the U.S. And
Mhm.
then we had Gama Singh, and I have a Punjabi background, so it was cool for my dad and my uncles. They never really saw anyone like that in sports at that time, and on TV. So it was a big deal. But Stampede Wrestling, where he wrestled, which is in Alberta, where I'm from, was actually, before the WWF,
Mhm.
is like where a lot of these wrestlers were forged. I mean, a lot of people came through there. Andre the Giant, Honky Tonk Man, Jake the Snake Roberts, like, and then of course Bret Hart, who is massive in the WWF, right? He was champion for I can't even remember how many times, 5 times.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and so his dad, Stu Hart, created Stampede Wrestling in here in Canada, and right before Vince McMahon really came out with WWF, Stampede Wrestling was kind of the place to be. And you know, our guy Gamma Singh, like he had traveled around, he had gone to Japan, he had been with the Von Erichs in Texas. So yeah, it was a really cool, interesting window into the past, and but also present because his son is a wrestler, and so it was a really good kind of generational story to tell. I got to kind of get more in touch with my dad's sports hero, which was really cool. Um, and it's just it's a really fun movie. Like the way we shot it, it's more it's like it's a documentary, but it is like a film. Like the way we shot the fight sequences with like all these cameras. Like it really does feel big. I was kind of going for that because wrestling is larger than life. But
Hmm.
yeah, we got to I got to interview Bret Hart, Jinder Mahal, Chelsea Green, who's like killing it right now in the
Hmm.
WWE.
Yep.
Yeah, she's awesome. Uh, we got to fly around for it. We went to Florida and we went to Puerto Rico because part of the story takes place there. Gama Singh married a Puerto Rican woman, and they have a big wrestling scene there. Obviously the kind of Latin luchador
Hmm.
scene. But yeah, Sings in the Ring. It's so we did our festival run in Canada, and then we're kind of gonna do that in America in 2026. So it's not out yet in America. It's out in Canada, but we're gonna hopefully do some really cool things with it in the U.S. next year.
Awesome. We're patiently waiting for that one. Oh man, that's a good one. All right, Akash. So with all your projects and everything that you do from directing music videos, directing films, what would you say has been the greatest obstacle for you throughout this journey?
That's a good question. First and foremost, I mean, the biggest obstacle will always be yourself.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, there are times where I feel like I'm operating at 110% and I'm firing on all cylinders and everything's going great. But then there are some times where I feel like I'm operating at 10%. And I mean, the reality is of being a human, you can't
Hmm.
be on all the time. And like, there are many opportunities that I think I probably could have seized if I had more energy at the time or if I wasn't burnt out from something else. So that part is always tough. I think burnout is actually probably the biggest obstacle. You know, uh, but the other thing is uh, the industry is always in flux. Like you don't really know where things are headed, right? Like people in Hollywood are always like, "Oh, the market. Oh, we don't." They don't even know. Like they will make big bets and then things will flop, and then everyone's out of a job. So that kind of part, that uncertainty, that's always going to be there. Like despite having like pursued my passion and I think had like a decent amount of success, especially for a kid from Canada. We're a smaller country. We have like, I don't know, 38 million people. You guys have like upwards of 350 million. So I think I'm quite grateful for everything that has happened. But yeah, you can never really anticipate where the market and the industry is going. So you kind of have to learn to go with the flow, and that's always tough because it comes with a degree of helplessness and powerlessness. You can have a lot of great ideas, but maybe it's not the right time.
Hmm.
You have to be in the right place at the right time, and it's impossible to plan that. So there's definitely a bit of serendipity and luck, I think, in every success story. like,
Hmm.
uh, but I would say in order to create those opportunities, you have to make something, right? Like I wouldn't have been able to make Clara if I didn't make my first feature film, which called The Rocket List, which is just me and my buddies going on a road trip and like we filmed ourselves. It was kind of like a found footage thing, but in the story, the world is going to end sort of crossing off our bucket lists. And with my VFX, I put like a big asteroid in the sky that was like incoming the whole time. Like you could see it growing bigger and bigger throughout the film
Mm.
with this impending doom. And like it was just about friendship and, connecting. And it was really simple, but I think I was able to convince, larger producers like that there's a spark here.
Mm.
So yeah, I just I think like you can kind of create your own opportunities, um, but yeah, brace yourself for the uncertainty because it's going to come.
Definitely. Akash, could you share with us, what are some things that you do when you have to put the camera down, put down a pencil, stop writing, just kind of like step away for a little bit, just to kind of come back and, re-energize that creativity?
um, I think hanging out with friends. I mean, like that's just a big thing. Is that like I love to just kind of shoot the shit with my friends and hang out. And yeah, we talk about movies still. We'll always talk about movies, but also like video games. I think video games are also a really great outlet to explore creative worlds. Like I always hear like athletes that like they play video games the night before a match. Like I know like a lot of NBA players or hockey players like they play video games before they're they have to go on the court or rink the day following. And so I think that's a pretty good outlet. But yeah, having something else, and I struggle with that. I think a lot of artists will struggle with balance. It's a really
Hmm.
tough thing. I mean, I should probably go to the gym a lot more, like, you know, eat healthier, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess find something that takes you away from it a little bit every now and then, because
Hmm.
if you're in it all the time, it can be all consuming. So whatever that is, I mean, obviously a lot of people say, be fit, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of hard sometimes, especially when fast food tastes so good. But yeah, find something, whether it's a hobby, a group of friends, or a dog, like whatever brings you out of it and grounds you on this planet outside of the the mechanism and the framework of your industry and your career. You got to have something else.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Akash, where can viewers and the listeners find your work? Do you have an IMDb page, YouTube, social media?
I have an Instagram page, Akash Sherman. I think it's just that with the at symbol. I have an IMDb page, but I mean, like, I don't really, I'm not really the one that updates that. Uh, I think, again, it's tough nowadays in the distribution arena. I don't even really know where my films are anymore because they'll shift around between like Netflix Prime or Tubi or something like that. So depending on whatever your region is, I'm sure you'll be able to find it or use a VPN. But yeah, definitely check out Clara. It's a really cool indie sci-fi that had like a lot of big ideas. Some of them that are manifesting now with some of the telescopes that we have out there with NASA. And yeah, it's just a good kind of human film and very talented actors. Very, very proud of it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Akash, we got a few minutes left before we wrap up. We're going to ask this question we ask all the guests. What is a book, a TV show, or a film that you recommend?
All right, I'm going to recommend a TV show because it's a Netflix TV show. It's called Dark. And what the show is so amazing because number one, it was written to be finished. Like it didn't have seasons that just kept going on and on. It was written to be 3 seasons, and it had a big kind of finite story. But this show is mind blowing. I don't want to spoil anything, but it goes to places that nothing else really has, and it's definitely a mind bender. But it's a German show, so you're gonna have to watch it with subtitles. Do not watch the dubbed audio; completely ruins the performances. But it's called Dark. It's 3 seasons. I've seen it like 4 times. It's so good, and it not only is it just mind blowing, and the filmmaking is so good. The characters, everything is just amazing. But it highlights the importance of vision. Like they had a very clear vision going into the show. It was 3 seasons. It was only going to be that. It's a finite story, and the end result was like a masterpiece and perfect television. Like I haven't seen anything that's even come close to it, to be honest. So yeah, it's called Dark. It's gonna blow your mind. Definitely check it out on Netflix.
Awesome, awesome. All right, everyone, that's been our episode today of Inside Plug. Akash, thanks for stopping by and sharing your journey with us.
Thanks, Devon. It'd be great to be here.
All right, everyone, you know where to find us. We're on all those podcast platforms. We're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember, stay inspired and keep creating. Inside Plug, signing out.